G'day everyone, welcome back to another weekly tipping video on the channel. So today I'm going to be going over my tips for round 22 of the 2025 AFL season. Feel free to leave a like and subscribe if you do go and do enjoy today's video. Let's begin. So as always, let's have a look on how I went from the previous round, that being round 21, and I finally got myself a full 9 out of 9 score. Great to finally get the monkey off the back. We've been waiting for this all season long, and at this stage of the season, all the tips are fairly self-explanatory, especially at the minute. Since round 17, this was revealed on the first crack, there is a win-loss record of 34 wins and 1 loss between a top 9 team and a bottom 9 team. Since round 17, crazy stuff. So a lot of one-sided affairs. Wasn't expecting an 88-point margin in favour of the Dogs, though. They've got a great record against the Giants, but yeah, geez, offensively, they looked real damaging. The Crows over Hawthorn, one of their games of the season, real quality between both sides. Adelaide, just too much quality, composure and firepower in their forward half. The D's, a big win over the West Coast Eagles. Gold Coast over Richmond. Sydney over Essendon, fairly scrappy game. And this was really what helped me get the 9 out of 9 with going Brisbane over Collingwood. Just felt they were due a really good performance, and they seem to play well at the MCG this season. The Pies are now starting to be on the ropes a wee bit. St Kilda over North Melbourne. North probably should have pinched this game. Another gallant defeat. They've had plenty of those this season. The Cats over Port Adelaide, and Fremantle over the Blues after an early scare. A quick look now, my tipping competition leaderboard update. There were plenty of people that got themselves a full 9 out of 9 score, including myself. And as for who is leading my competition, we have a new leader, 𝐼𝐴 with a total score of 166. So let's now begin with the tips for round 22, and we start with a belter on Thursday night. Hawthorn taking on the Pies at the MCG. Right off the bat, this is an early final for both teams. Hawthorn, they've just got to win this to be really a realistic chance for finals, given who the Dogs have, for example, with their games remaining of the year. If they drop this, it could be season done. And as for the Pies, they want to win this to keep entrenched in the top 4. Looking at both teams, I feel like Hawthorn are the team in a bit better form in comparison to the Pies. They did drop their game against the Crows, but not really much shame in it. In the end, though, this is probably where Hawthorn are at. They just have really lacked that clutch factor or that real damaging or killing blow, especially as games have gotten laid on, like against Fremantle and the Suns, and now against Adelaide. That's what's really let them down. And overall, probably still another elite midfielder away, including 𝐼𝐴, but now 𝐼𝐴's out for the rest of the season, so a bit of carnage there. As for Collingwood, though, in the personnel front of things, they will get back in 𝐼𝐴 and maybe Tom Mitchell, but Howe's a big one because since he's been out the side, 𝐼𝐴, the Pies have looked a bit gettable defensively, especially in transition, but also with those big loopy air balls inside 50. That's where 𝐼𝐴 is so good. He can read it well, and it allows Darcy Moore to roam a bit more freely and be that interceptor whilst he's been forced to be that lockdown defender. So I think with Howe back in, surely you'd think that would shore up Collingwood's defence a wee bit. Hawthorn's speed that they can generate off their ball movement's always damaging, and that could cause the Pies a bit of trouble. They've got a great record over the Pies, let's remember the Hawks. Pies have got to really bounce back with their pressure. It's been off a wee bit throughout 4 quarters the last few weeks. It's a tough one to go with here because Hawthorn, I just feel like they are due for a scalp against a real quality side. They certainly have the weapons in that forward half like Gunston, 𝐼𝐴, Watson can bob up and appear in a centre bounce to cause a bit of damage. As I said, it's a must win for both sides. I've just got a bit more trust and faith in the Pies. They have been off their game the last few weeks, but surely they are due for a bit of a bounce-back performance here with some troops coming back in, as I have mentioned. I expect them to tighten up a lot more defensively this week. This is going to be, I think, a one that could really go either way, but I'm backing in the Pies in this one just. I think their pressure will be too good here for the Hawks, and we'll tip them here in a close game. We'll go Collingwood by 14. Now for Friday night football, we have the Cats taking on Essendon at 𝐓𝐴 Stadium. Essendon, probably one of their more gallant defeats last week against the Swans. They only lost by 14 points in the end, but still what let them down though was some pretty basic unforced errors here and there, and just weren't able to match the quality going inside 50 in comparison to the Swans, but they're almost a void at this point of this season, playing a lot of young players, killed with injury at the minute, and it's going to be a tough task facing the Cats, where they don't really have a great record against. The Cats did beat up on the Dons last time out at the MCG, and the Cats coming off an almost 100-point belting against Port Adelaide. They're in real good nick at the minute. There probably is still questions on how they match up against those top 8 sides, because the last few wins past month and a half now have been against bottom 10 teams. So not really much surprises here. Cats are in form, one of the most efficient teams in the competition. Could Jeremy Cameron kick another bag and get that step closer to a potential 100 goal mark? It's going to be tough, but yeah, you'd expect the Cats to beat up here on a bit of an Essendon side really struggling with injury. But hey, could they bring up the pressure? That's what impressed me against the Swans, but from a four-quarter point of view, I just don't think they can go the Cats. So Geelong should win this one well. We'll go the Cats here by 55. For the Saturday games now, first one up, we have the Tigers taking on the Saints at the MCG. And this one feels like a game where Richmond is certainly a chance against St Kilda. They've won their past two games, to be fair, the Saints, but they haven't looked at their absolute best. Their execution's been one of their main problems all season long. That's what we continue to see a bit with the Saints. So this is definitely a gettable one for the Tigers. Surely they do bounce back a bit, or is this now going to be the end of the year where we might not see another win because they looked awfully tired and just got absolutely outclassed by the Suns. Against a weaker opposition, though, wouldn't surprise me the Tigers really get up for this game. What they've been able to produce before that Suns game has been impressive. They've looked a lot more potent going inside 50, and they've really ramped up their pressure throughout periods of games. I'll go with the Saints in this one, though. They are the better team overall in comparison to the Tigers, and, you know, past two games they have won, so that should probably up them around, the confidence a bit in the playing group. And look, when they can win that ground level game, they can dominate periods throughout matches. So I'll go with the Saints in this one. They didn't beat up well on the Tigers last time out. Might not be the case again. I feel like this one could be a bit closer. So I'll go the Saints in this one. Bit of a closer margin from last time. I'll go the Saints here by 15. Next game up here, we have the Lions taking on the Swans at the Gabba. Brisbane coming off one of their best wins of the season, a comprehensive victory against Collingwood, and geez, they looked great inside and out. Their pressure was outstanding, forced Collingwood to overuse hand passes and were able to execute well for the turnover, and some of their ball movement reminded me of the grand final last year, just those perfectly well weighted kicks over the top to really outdo Collingwood defensively. Yeah, in good nick at the minute, but they do have a few outs here. Lachie Neale out for the rest of the home race season. Leicester out with concussion. Does that get the Swans much chance? Probably not here. As for Sydney, they did get a pretty scrappy win over the Dons, but just a game to write off. I personally feel pretty tricky conditions. Jessie Tatoli, the debutant, had some nice moments. You'd think he continues to get some games. And throughout periods of games since the bye, Sydney have been able to show their flashes and brilliance of ball movement from last year, but it's been a total far cry since last season. They're actually 17th in the turnover game. Last year, they were clearly first. So, yeah, it's been a strange and just a messy year for Sydney with personal issues and definitely the mental lapses they've had this season. It wouldn't surprise me if Sydney maybe are competitive early on here, and then Brisbane probably through their offensive power just totally blow the Swans here out of the water. Confidence and morale should be high up here for Brisbane coming off that big win against the Pies, but who knows, like Sydney, they could definitely make this a contest, and I think it will be a bit of a battle early on. Sydney to keep Brisbane honest, but I think just with the nick they're in, too much firepower in that forward half should be able to take the Swans to the cleaners and get the win here. So I'll go Brisbane in this one over the Swans, and we'll tip them here by 4 goals, 24 points. Saturday night football now. First game up, we have Carlton taking on the Suns at Marvel Stadium. The Blues, same old, eh? Great first half, probably one of the best first halves of the season. Their pressure was through the roof. Fremantle did not like it one bit. Almost every tackle was holding the ball. It was impressive to watch, no doubt. But they just fade out again in the second half. I think it was 10 goals to 2 in that second half against Fremantle. How do we look at this one against Gold Coast? It's another tough opposition. It is at home, so at their playpen, could they get up and about here? At this stage of the season, maybe not, but you'd think maybe they could have one more scalp to finish off the year. As we did say, their pressure was impressive, but what does make me nervous a bit is just Carlton's defensive lapses they have, and sides can really move the ball quickly against them. And Gold Coast, what they've been able to manufacture all year is some really strong rebound from the half-back line. So that's where I could see the Suns really dominating here. Anderson and Rao are in terrific form in the minute. And to be fair, Cripps has been playing really well too. So if the Blues can get a bit of dominance from that midfield, well, yeah, they could maybe wreak some havoc against the Suns here. But another big problem for the Blues this season is their connection going inside 50, and I just don't think it matches the Suns here. Gold Coast also a very good side and locking in their forward half as well. So yeah, maybe Carlton, give them a bit of a battle early on here, but with the form Gold Coast is in, some quality wins they've had the last few rounds, a big one against the Lions and also a huge one against Richmond. Yeah, they're a team in too good form to really see them drop this game. So Gold Coast, I go here over the Blues, and we'll tip them by 27 points. Then the other Saturday night game, we have Port Adelaide taking on Fremantle at the Adelaide Oval. Port Adelaide, another huge loss. They continue to rack them up this season, and it's just where they're at in the minute. They have a lot lot of key injuries and players are downing tools. They look like a pretty checked out side at the minute. Very disappointing season for Port Adelaide. Felt like almost a wasted year with 𝐸𝐿 going for one more. Is that a bit of selfishness for him? I guess maybe save that for another conversation another time. But yeah, there's so many injuries as well. Like maybe that isn't being talked about enough, given Port Adelaide haven't been good even when they've had almost a full strength team. But especially with this game heading into against Fremantle, they've got to be in good nick to knock off the Dockers here, because whilst they have had maybe a soft underbelly here or there, Fremantle, when sides have been able to bring really good pressure and beat them on the inside, they have looked gettable, and they've started off games somewhat slow, the Dockers, but their second halves have been almost unbeatable. They get a real good response from their midfield. They can really move the ball well from that back half. Jordan Clark's been so awesome this season. Port Adelaide's contested game has really dried up the last few weeks. They're getting smacked in there in the minute. It is pretty self-explanatory, especially with no Bergman and Horne-Francis to give him a bit of burst out of congestion. Yeah, with Port Adelaide, their circumstances, it's hard to see them get the win here. If this was early in the year, you'd probably give them maybe a bit of an upset tip here, but Fremantle, they've won 9 out of the last 10 games. They're looking in good nick at the minute. So yeah, maybe Port can challenge them early on, as we have seen Fremantle struggle early on, but I expect them by the second half to really get rolling, and yeah, they're just a team in real good form. So Fremantle to pick up the win here against Port Adelaide, and yeah, a bit of a cagey affair, but the Dockers, through their firepower, run away with it and win by 25 points. Sunday games now. First one up, we have the Giants taking on North Melbourne at Manuka Oval. GWS, well, what on earth was that? That was one of their worst performances of the season, no doubt. Going down by almost 100 points to the Western Bulldogs. But I guess for these good teams, it can happen here or there. Like look at Brisbane, for example. They get belted by the Suns and they come out and they beat the Pies. So I've just given them a mulligan, the Giants. I think in the last 8 weeks or so, they've really improved their game, especially in the midfield, and they looked a lot more connected moving from the back half. And facing North Melbourne here, where they've struggled a wee bit, they've been good and bad throughout phases of games, but oh geez, they really could have pinched that one against the Saints last week. They showed a bit of dare. They really took the game on. But then at the same time, we still saw the basic fundamental errors, missed hand passes, fumbles when moving and getting out in the open. So they've really got to try and mitigate that. But against the Giants here, you'd expect them to just totally blitz the Kangas here on the outside, because their ball movement since the bye has really ripened up. So giving them a mulligan against the Dogs, against a bit of a weaker opposition here, you'd think they'd take North Melbourne to the cleaners. But hey, could North challenge them early on, maybe get a bit of dominance in that midfield game. From a four-quarter point of view, can't really see North Melbourne putting on the pressure here. So the Giants should bounce back well here, you'd think, and we'll go generous in this one by 32 points. Next Sunday game, we have the Melbourne Demons taking on the Dogs at the MCG. Announced this morning, Simon Goodwin is sacked. So not really surprised, to be honest, but it's a bit strange how they've announced it after an 83-point win against the Eagles. But maybe it is for the greater good, and potentially they could be eyeing out one of those top coaches that are currently not in business at the minute. But the D's over the Dogs, they seem to have a fairly good record, and the Dogs' record at the MCG isn't too great from what I can think of. But looking at both sides in the minute, the D's are a bit of a checked out team, and the gulf between the good and bad footy has been huge since the bye. I'm pretty sure the record's like 1 win and 9 losses or something around the mark. Compared to the rest of the bottom 10 teams though, they are looking like a bit more of a potent side going inside 50. As I've been saying, Ballyfritsch, another good performance on the weekend. They're getting quite a bit out of Jake 𝐸𝐿𝐴. Chandler can bob up for a goal or two here or there. Going to be a tough test against the Dogs, and as I did bring up earlier, the record against the top 9 and bottom 9 is absolutely blown out of the water, 34-1. So you can't really give many teams a chance here facing these top 9 sides, and the Dogs in the minute coming off a huge win, one of their best wins of the season against the Giants. Almost every time it went inside 50, they were picking apart the Giants defence, taking marks, kicking some lovely goals. Norton Darcy, damaging duo at the minute, both clunking the ball really well. Then you can have Riley West bob up with a ground level goal. He's been in really good form this year. He's kicked almost 40 goals. Although deep down, I just have that feeling that it wouldn't surprise me if the Dogs just have a bad day at the office here and the D's start to click a bit at this one at the G. And they, as I said before, the Dogs don't have a great record at the G. At this stage of the season, the form the Dogs are in, I just think it's too good here for Melbourne. They've got threats all over that forward half. They've got midfielders at the minute like Richards and Bont that can definitely rack up the score involvements. I think offensively they should be too good here for the D's. D's. So yeah, maybe the Demons put on a bit of a contest early on, but I expect the Bulldogs to be too strong in the end unless you win this one well by 33 points. And the final game of the round, we do have the Eagles taking on the Adelaide Crows at Optus Stadium. West Coast, just one of those teams in the competition that really just want to get the year over and done with. Another dirty loss it was against the D's, where they started off okay. That has been a bit of the Eagles' losses this season, where they've tended to have quite decent first halves, but then they just have a period where they just concede multiple goals in a row, and basically it is game over. And facing the Crows, pretty much the best team of the comp at the moment, and yeah, you'd think Adelaide, with the form they're in, should really take the Eagles to the cleaners here. Offensively, looking in great nick, and also defensively, just a beautifully balanced team. Worrell's been intercepting well. 𝐼𝐴 keeps it improving game in, game out. It wouldn't shock me if the Eagles started off the game okay, set the tone with the pressure, and look, their turnover game since the bye has improved, but the last few weeks it's just been totally blown out of the water with some of the defensive efforts I see week in, week out. And Adelaide, the team they are in the minute, not really much surprises here. Adelaide should really be winning this one well. Too much firepower in that forward half. So I'll go the Crows in this one. Should win big here against the Eagles. And we'll go Adelaide in this one by 60 points. So overall now, my tips for round 22 of the 2025 AFL season. Let me know your tips down below in the comments section. Just 3 rounds left. So there's going to be some pretty big matches here, especially Thursday night. But for the most part, I'm expecting these games to be pretty much all one-sided affairs, given the record between the top 9 and bottom 9 is a pretty substantial one. Hopefully you did enjoy, everybody. And until next time, I'll talk to you later. See you later, fellas.